the concept of JJ's wanting to run their internship program through Empower instead of through a separate entity, and making the system operate in a way that is conducive with what they're looking for.
Okay. All right. Tell me what's going to be unique about that, and are we talking about including that like in our graduate profile?
No, because the graduate profile, no, the graduate profile would be the container for all the targets, right, and all of that data.
Yeah.
It would be more like, so when I explained it to you, it was around the concept that an internship is like a playlist, essentially, or an activity. But there were a couple qualifiers here where if I was a learner and I wanted to investigate what was in that internship, I could go and investigate, but I couldn't actually start it without asking for permission. Because I kind of talked to you guys about the fact that Eric, who's over at JJ, currently has to accept their enrollment into an internship, hypothetically. And so he wants them to be able to dip into and look at the internships to see if they're interested, but then it's like a formal request asking if they can be involved in that internship. But if Eric builds it the right way, he's using the big idea, he's linking the targets already into the internship. There's a lot of things that he wouldn't have to do twice because it's not in two different systems if we can use Empower that way. But it's not just like manipulating what's there. It's making it a prominent statement that this is something that should be used for your internships now.
Okay, so from what you see, a playlist is a nice package to express this internship. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that I'm trying to process through, an activity might do the job. I'm trying to think, is there a benefit to a playlist? I would say, what if we went with activity first, Scott, and we made each internship an activity, because they could have differently appointed learning facilitator and learner steps in the activity. They still have the big idea that connects to different targets. The reason why I want to almost protect the playlist is because eventually we might have a playlist with being the bigger container of, let's say, the medical. What if they want to connect to what the high school is doing, right? And so they want to make a medical college container for 5 or 6 different pathways. We would want them to drop those activities into a playlist, therefore creating that systematic structure. Does that make sense?
I still feel like I need a little bit more grounded info. So, like, for instance, if I'm a student and I am browsing internships, what data, what information am I looking to consume? The standards, the opportunities. What
opportunities. Mainly, it's the opportunities.
Okay, and how do we express opportunities? What is?
So I want to preface that though, Scott, with right now that's what they're using. I don't think that's how we need the system to function, right? Okay. It needs to be built both ways. Essentially, where I could use, I almost see 2 different boxes up at the top, right? A box where you select the type of internships available because they're of a categorical interest to you, and then a different choice, which is over here, you can select the learning targets you actually need credit for, and then that will show you the types of internships that you can look into. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. So, so from this page, because this area here was a little bit ambiguous, we want them to be able to maybe see a listing of internships that they could that are available.
I don't want this to impact the graduate profile at all.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. Where should they make these queries? What page would they be doing this from?
This belongs just like a playlist and an activity. So it belongs like the content of an internship is going to go into a certain course.
Okay. So
So if I'm getting language arts credits through a veterinary internship that I'm doing because I'm writing up a bunch of whatever, hospital reports or whatever, it would go into the language arts course that I'm in. But that could be designated by the target selection per internship. That's why I was trying to take it through the avenue of the big picture or the big idea.
Yeah.
Because the big idea is where we could designate for this veterinary internship, I want these targets, or they will be able to accrue these targets, and then you would have both searchability.
Okay. We're changing the student's homepage, but let's look at it as it sits, at least right at this very moment. Well, if I was on an actual student's page, they would have the ability to search for things. And
so it's twofold, right? You're going to keep the ability to see all that stuff in whatever course that you're in, right? But you would also have the ability to find maybe the next internship that you're looking for.
Okay, so let's start with the course that I'm in. Are we changing anything with the course that I'm in?
Not that I'm aware of, no. That wasn't something that they cared deeply about. They care much more about, number one, getting this all in the same system.
Okay.
And then number two, being able to function in both of the ways that we've talked about so far.
Okay. So, again, just trying to mind the changes. So I've got internships that I'm in, but I'm curious as far as other internships that I may want to take. So I'm going to do a search somewhere. Is that right?
Correct.
And
I'm imagining it, Scott, on that same instruction page that you're going to, at the top where you have the searchability function,
right,
that you would be able to select in there what you're looking for. One of the drop downs being maybe an internship. You're searching for an internship, and then the next designation is more about is not these types of things, right? And so the next designation is where I see the different drop down, where it's a type by categorization of internship or by a selection of learning targets.
Okay, so probably where we have this top drop down, where I can say playlist or whatever, it'd be more user friendly if we had internship on here, right?
Yeah. That's one of the points was that it had to be, and that was my statement about making sure that it's like blatantly obvious that this is something that we're trying to move forward with.
Okay.
And that it's not just trying to throw the internships into the box of activities, but that it's actually built around a designation of this can be used for internships.
Okay. Currently, we get a lot of mileage out of our playlist, and when you select playlist, it allows you to do a playlist type. From a data standpoint, this is really just going to be another playlist type, which is internship. But from a user standpoint, that is it's cryptic to know that you have to click playlist and then you have to know to select an internship.
Right. It's like the course view right now in the A/B setting of the target browser.
Yeah. So I guess if we make at the top level here that it's an internship, and then from here you'll get additional features such as keywords. There wouldn't be any of these items. But you can filter on content areas, and from content areas, I guess with internships, we don't really care about level, but it does allow us to go to topics, and then from there we can select targets. So it would maintain most of this current functionality, except it would just be a top level item for students to quickly find. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
again, it's just in the navigate in our system.
Yeah. Yep. So and as we redesign the new student homepage, we can we can make these a little bit more prominent. But an internship, does it only apply to JJ?
No, no. This is where it's harder to designate, because at some point in the unforeseeable future, because I have no control over it, I would imagine the high school is going in this direction too, especially as they shift into their colleges. But I don't know right now, Scott. And so it's really similar to like what we've talked about everything else. We want the ability for the system to be used like this in any of the different settings, because as a K-8 principal, I would want to start having some of my 7th and 8th graders doing some internships if I could. And so the functionality we would actually be trying to get across the board, but there would need to be a way for us to limit whether it's in the creation of the internship or the entry of the internship. They're going to have to designate the site that it's for, right?
Oh, so internships are site specific. I mean, that makes sense.
They're going to,
Makes sense.
yeah.
So right now we don't associate a playlist with any sort of site, but I guess we'll need to do that, huh?
Well, I think that the only other option is to, only because we're talking about it, right, is that that drop down, that designation of an internship automatically makes it, I don't know how to say it, automatically makes it look at or look through the lens of the site that you're at as the learner. Does that make sense? Like the system knows what site you're at. And so basically when you select internships, now it points to the internships at that site.
And the question would be is how do we know that this playlist belongs to a specific site? We got to add some field, I guess, in the big idea where if you do select internship, you have to also select a site, huh?
Either that, or you could do it based off of the person that's entering the data, right? They're at, no, never mind. I take that back.
Yeah.
There's too much movement, and when somebody leaves and shifts, I don't want any of that going anywhere. So yes,
Right.
I would say we would have some kind of designation to a site on the internships one.
Okay. Now, with that caveat, once you're able to do that, will a person be able to build a playlist that has all of the information using all of the features of the playlist currently, or would we miss something?
Those are the questions that I don't know, and I honestly don't think that JJ's is deep enough into the work yet. I mean, this is their second year on the internships, but even giving them access to these tools in the concept of an internship would be more depth than they currently have, right? Because now the concept is as basic as you can make it, Scott. If you do an internship, you basically get handed off over to this other person, and then they say yes or no with some kind of evidence as to your designation of being proficient. Because it's a different system, they're not putting quizzes in there that says, can you now answer these questions based off of the internship that you have in a playlist type of format that could be done with or without an adult. None of these features are currently being used because it is a standalone concept right now.
Okay. And you gave two search scenarios. One is that maybe I'm just doing a general search for internships, but I may also be looking for standards that I have specifically needs. And if I were to do a search where I can see, we've got this drill down, and my question is this sufficient to be able? We'll have to do something with the levels because I don't think levels even matters, but.
We are making dreams come true with this call, right?
Yeah, no, this is a magical call for all of us.
Okay, so if this is a dream come true call, Scott, basically, again, because the system is looking in the target browser, right, it's identifying what you actually aren't proficient at in the courses that you're in.
Yeah.
And there should be able to populate an available type of internships according to what you need.
Okay.
Right? It's a first are saving time for learners going in the system, wasting time looking at a bunch of stuff that they already have, or that they're nowhere near having, or that they don't have prerequisites for.
Okay, so let's construct this again. So the system has to be aware of what you need, which I am assuming is because we've got this path laid out, right?
Correct. Yes. As well, between this and the next level down, which is the target browser data.
Right. Okay. Right. So here's the thing that is interesting is we know that we have requirements based on courses. However, depending on where a student is in their high school career, they may not have all their courses defined. So at that point, we don't really know all the standards that they need to take. Unless if we the alternate way that we handle this in most other schools is within the target browser we establish standards themselves that are graduation requirements. But
well, you do know the standards that internship will cover, and whether they have a need for those standards or not, right?
Right. So we got two sides of the fence. One side of the fence is that they already are in a course, or is an internship kind of similar to a course? Should I be thinking of it that way? In other words, will it show up on this page? Would an internship show up on this page as a course, or is it larger than a course?
It's sounding like what Nick says, that it's giving them parts of various different courses.
Yeah, I don't think the concept is that the internship becomes a course.
Okay. So from a JJ standpoint, where I'm a kiddo that's going through internships, I'm still going to be enrolled in regular courses here?
Like it might give you 4 different standards out of Integrated Math 2PA, and it might give you 5 different standards out of English 12, and that kind of thing. It's not giving you whole courses, it's giving you pieces that help you pass courses.
Okay. So what we need to do is marry the concepts of from a JJ student. I'm still going to be going through this paradigm where I've got credits that are getting marked off and I'm being assigned courses. Is that true?
I believe so. Can you look up a learner at JJ? Is there a way to look up a learner and identify whether they're listing internships as courses?
Yeah.
Sorry, Scott, I don't have the answer to this question, so I don't know. I'm sending you though, just so you have it, Scott. JJ, I went over to JJ and asked them what they would have to have in Empower to make this super functional from an internship standpoint. And I just invited you to that doc so that you have that for yourself.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
And some of it you'll find is way too specific and unnecessary, but some of it makes sense from like a big picture standpoint or the big idea standpoint, where there might need a couple more options of stuff to write in there for internship specific.
Okay, change categories to internships, playlist activities, etc. I don't know what that means. A category.
That's just what we talked about in the drop down. So from a playlist to an activity, so an internship is one of them.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Playlist creation, need restriction, but can search for internships. Okay. Filters, pinned in, shadow days. I don't know what that means.
I don't know that I have a good articulation of what that means. Because the two filters they're asking for kind of conflict. But the pending concept is when a learner has requested from somebody that they get that internship, that there's some way that it shows that it's pending.
Oh, okay.
Shadow days is when they're going on site and shadowing a person in a job, I think.
So how does a student get associated with a internship? Is it a core? Is it a scheduled item? Is it something in
That's
their?
that's what Jeff is digging
I'm
into right
looking
now.
for that right now.
Because I don't know the answer to that question.
Way to restrict the number of active learners on a playlist.
Yeah, so essentially that's number of active learners on an internship is essentially what they're saying. So once the internship gets to like 4 people, or for some of our businesses around here, it's 1. But it's one of those added pieces on the big idea or on the assigned screen that essentially maybe, I don't know, somewhere where it's saying how many of these internships are currently available.
Interesting. I'm almost wondering if we can do another approach. Let me take a peek here. I'm wondering if we could go in and we create a group for an internship. My internship. Oops. And I make it, would you like others to be able to find your group? Yes, I actually would. I'd like only 4 people to be able to join this. And they must be approved before they can actually join. So let's say I did something like this and I created it and I saved it. So I've got an internship. Now, if I associate a playlist with this, I would also now know all of the standards that we're going to address. So let me just try something here. And in a second, I'm hoping it makes sense because right now it's pretty abstract. So, okay, so I'm going to sign this. And I sign this to my.
You have internship as a scheduled item for kids.
It is a scheduled item?
Yes.
Okay, because I could go here to group, and under groups, I could have a type of internships. And let me show you what happens when you do that. So I'm a current member. I need to do it as a student. What this allows me to do is I'd be able to see all of the opportunities that I have for internships. I could actually request to be enrolled in an internship. I could search on it and be able to find out what standards they might address. Who's teaching it, when it's going to meet, all that kind of good stuff. And it also allows me to limit the number of kiddos that can actually join it. And then once I'm accepted, it shows up on my roster with the internship playlist already assigned to me.
So how can we make that process? Is that the smoothest process, or does it just seem hard because we walked through it?
Okay, wait, let me do it from a student side now. Let's do it from a student side. And there's definitely going to be some changes we need to do to really bring forward the whole idea of this internship. But what I can do is I can search for a group, and again, we could classify this as an internship. And if I go in, we could make it so that I could search for all the different internships. So we're using our dreams. Remember, this is imagination. This would be relabeled internship. It wouldn't say group. There would be an ability for me to filter down onto different or not activities, but standards. When I search for it, oh, that's strange. Oh, created by me, created by anyone. When I search for it, I can request to join it. there's 0 of 4 enrolled, so I know that I can actually do it. It tells me a request has been sent, and right now that request has been sent directly to the account who created this, which is my super admin account. And what I'm suggesting too is if I clicked on this, it would open it up and it would show me all the playlists, so I could see all the playlists and everything that's in it. But what this does is it accesses two different things. It allows me to be able to manage the enrollment into any of these internships right here. It allows me to limit the amount of who can enroll, and it allows me to display what is involved in, the standards, and if they filled out a playlist, I could peruse the playlist.
Yeah, I think that what you're describing would, if you mocked it up like the other things that we were talking about, it would be one of those things that I would say, let me take this back to JJ now and get their thoughts on the workflow, and is this what they're looking for? Does it involve the things that they gave me in terms of content? I think that the logic that you're using makes total sense, and it's easier the second time around listening as a learner than it was the first time around.
Sure.
And I can picture it. And so by the time they get to actually use it in the way that it's mocked up, I think it would make sense.
You see this? You see this little alert here? I just got this alert because a student requested to join my group, so I can click on that and look at their message. So here it is. Madison Caesar has requested to enroll, so I click on that. Madison Caesar has requested to enroll in your group named My Internship. Click to approve or reject the request, it's below option. So if I approve it, now Madison gets a message that she's been approved, and when she logs in, she actually sees that that group is now in there. And she also sees the playlist, or in this case, she sees the full internship. See, like now this message is telling Madison that she has been accepted, and here it is. It's now part of her homepage, her internship.
So question, since they are putting it on their schedule, it's going to appear on this list here on their homepage. So the way this would work is the My Internship would become a separate group, and in their internship and their schedule wouldn't show anything assigned there. It would be show it assigned in a different place, right?
Yeah, that's where you're right. You just broke it, Jeff. It duplicates at that point. So that's not necessarily good, because it is definitely part of their schedule, as you just confirmed, right?
Yes.
What's nice about this is it's an entire way to have a workflow that's pretty nice. I mean, I was able to actually enroll the kid, all within Empower, but that's not how you do it actually, because it has to go through Aries.
Well, we'd have to talk to them and ask them whether that breaks the concept or not.
Okay.
Whether putting on this schedule is super important, because it doesn't look like they're getting credit for it as a class. I think they're getting credit for other things like we discussed.
Yeah, right. This is almost a means by which they can satisfy the standards to earn credit, but it itself isn't a creditable course, right?
It doesn't look like it from what I'm looking at. We'd have to ask them, but they're putting it on their schedule. But I think it's exactly that they're getting various pieces of credit at other courses, not actually credit in internship itself.
I see. Okay. So here's still some of the tougher questions. I really liked your idea, Nick, of being able to dig into the students' data and suggest internships based on gaps that they have. But the question that's hard to answer is, how do I know what gaps they have? Because the only way that we've defined so far that I know they have gaps is based on what courses they're actually enrolled in. And those courses meet credits, and those courses also have standards. So in that way, if I saw a standard or a course, that they didn't earn the credit in, I could look and see what the standards are, and I could definitely use those standards to find internship opportunities. But the problem may be, again, let's say like a ninth grader, 10th grader, whatever it might be, they still have a lot of selections that they, some options. And so therefore, I'm not going to know what the graduation requirements in regard to standards are. I just know that they didn't hit the credits. But that's not enough for me to suggest an internship, I don't think.
You would have to ignore this graduation profile page. It would be a direct link between the standards and the big idea of the internship and their target browser, whether they have proficiency in those standards that are in the big idea of the internship.
Yeah.
Okay, but which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Am I in an internship and then I look at gaps in my internship, or
I'm looking for an internship that I have needs in most of the areas of that big idea.
Okay, and so again, the question is how do I know that those are needs? Remember, one way that we know about needs is because we said you need so many credits in a content area to graduate. Another way that within Empower that we know what a need is we would set a standard as a graduation requirement. Or a third way is that they have a template, and we would say that everything in that template is required for the student's learning. So which means would we be using for me to have a baseline to know this is what you're required to learn, and therefore I can find your gaps and meet them in various internships? I don't right now within the Lindsay install. I don't know exactly what standards a student is required to meet for graduation, unless if you've already done all the templates and every kiddo has a template in each of the content areas, or unless if you've gone through the target browser and you've set standards, classified them as graduation requirements. Without those two things, I don't know what is a requirement for graduation is going to be for your kiddos.
So just checking to see the standards in the big idea and whether they're proficient in those is not a piece that it can do.
Well, again, the big idea is in an internship, right?
It would need to be, yeah, because it would be specifically designating targets for that internship.
So if an internship could be set up similar to a course, it can analyze how proficient they are in that internship itself, just like they could analyze how proficient they are in a course.
Okay, so, all right, so maybe I was misunderstanding it. I was understanding that I have a need and I'm going to try to address it with an internship. But if I already have an internship that has that standard, isn't that need met? The query that I would be asking, isn't it already the standard that I need already being addressed in an internship that I'm assigned?
Well, at the point you're looking, you aren't assigned one yet.
Okay, so then there is no big idea then. That's what I think. It sounds like we got circular logic. I know what the need is because there is a big idea in the internship, but I need to have I don't have an internship, and so therefore I don't have any of the big idea. So my main question is simply by what means can I know what the student is required to learn and to be able to find out what their gaps are? It's not going to be through an internship, we just said, because that is something that I'm searching to be able to achieve. That's my end goal. So I don't start with an internship. So I don't have that. What's another means I have in order to know students' learning requirements?
So when I'm making work with me for a minute, when I'm making my designation, when my counselor makes my designation in the College of Agriculture University track, we're sending the system a bunch of messages, right? They're going to need some of these courses. They're going to need some of these are the learning targets that we should expect proficiency in. I'm trying to make this work through the graduate profile. In those courses, you also have all these targets that you'll have to be proficient in them, right?
Yeah.
So we have a designation of all of that for the learners. And at that point, we've identified for the system the targets that the learner, at least in the core courses, the targets that the learner will need to complete with proficiency to graduate, right?
Yeah, so if that does bring us back to the graduate profile, and it's predicated on the fact that the students enrolled in different courses, I absolutely have a clear means to know what the standards are and if there's gaps. That's a solid path of logic I can code.
So even at the end of the day, Scott, if that wasn't the logic that JJ was using, that doesn't mean that we couldn't build it into how they're designating everything, right? I mean, at that point, we could have them build courses on the internships to teach the system the right logic.
Yeah, the main goal that we're trying to do is we would like the system to be able to suggest to a student internships that fill gaps. So the problem that creates is, well, how do I know what a gap is? And I have to answer a simple question, which is, well, how do I know what this student is required to learn? How do I know which standards this student is required to learn? And I gave 3 potential ways you can do it right now in Empower. A template, identify specific standards as graduation requirements, or through a course. It didn't sound like either of those 3 methods was a clean match to what we're talking about here.
So is it possible when you're creating this internship playlist that there could also be a category you could select associated courses or something like that?
Yeah, I imagine that's possible, but I wonder if we would already have those courses associated to the student through a graduate profile, through scheduling or something.
For instance, this kid might be good, just based on the limited thing we're looking at, might be good for them to get into an internship that helps them through integrated math 2 and English 10, for example. That's where their gaps that need to be addressed right now are, based on what we're looking at. So if I found an internship that significantly helped me with those 2 courses, that would be one that would be suggested to me.
Okay, so we talked about in the graduate profile, some of these are going to be hard coded, right? Because you absolutely have to have credit in your in certain math courses. Is that true?
Yeah, and I would say most of what the internships would help you address would be these hard-coded courses.
Okay, good. Then what that's doing, it's getting us really close to being able to answer that essential question, which is, what is the student required to learn? And it's a complement of standards, but they're expressed through courses. And maybe even on this page, we could add a little button that says, please suggest for me internships. And you click it, And that's just all it does. It'll go through, it'll see, all right, from these courses that you've been either hard-coded or assigned, because that's another option, um, we've determined the gaps that you have in those courses, and these are the internships that actually would help meet those gaps. This internship will meet 3 of the standards. Here are the standards. This internship would actually meet 8 of the standards, including the 3 that the other one did. So maybe that's a better choice. So, that would be kind of a nice package of data to be able to give any consumer.
I think that it would certainly support the learners better than anything that we've talked about so far, because even if we built what JJ's asking for in the basic sense, because they didn't ask for anything that we're talking about right now, Scott, but even if we ask for what they have in the basic sense, the learner is still always waiting for somebody else, waiting for an adult before they can really understand what they can do in the future.
Gotcha. So what we've got to do is, I think we've got to understand a little bit better from JJ the relationship that their internships might have to this course structure. If we could rely on this course structure to at least inform us what standards the student should be learning, if we can do that, we can make a suggestion of internships. And the question also would be, is after the suggestions have been made, what workflow should be in place for the students to act on it? Maybe I say, I do like this. Am I just going to have a conversation with my my counselor? Should I be able to click a button within Empower and do something similar to that workflow that I just showed you, where it sends a notice and you can accept and reject it? We just want to tease out that part of the workflow as well.
Okay. That's the piece that I feel and ends up more in the lane of why they would have to have some kind of course designation, because you're almost designating that they have to be in an internship course, which then lets me know that they're available for that. Because it's not like every single learner is going to be in an internship.
Right.
And you don't want 500 learners sending requests to facilitators for internships that they're not able to go into.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right.
Or that would be the last day that I work here.
Okay. Yeah. So
I think all of that, though, Scott, all of that is built off of the information that we're asking for from JJ around the course-based or not course-based structure. Because that builds completely different based off of their answer. Am I right?
Yeah, I feel like we've got a sufficient amount of questions before we could even really set up the workflow here. Again, the main question is what is the most reliable way we can determine a student's graduation needs, by which we can find gaps to match with internships, available internships, and what type of functionality, once we're able to associate internships with needs, does JJ need that's not going to cause that headache you just mentioned, but maybe prevent some other headaches that they're very familiar with because they do this all the time.
Yeah. Okay. I will move forward with my questions for JJ.
Okay.
Only because I think that like we said, it's going to heavily depend on their answers to those questions. Whether or not how we move forward building them has heavily to do with that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually not traveling for a while. If there's any, I can avail myself of whatever time if it would be any benefit for me to be part of those conversations.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would even be open to you opening the door, but I can do it I can do it so there's a direct connection if it makes sense.
Yeah. What do you want me to reach out to Dennis, or do you want to facilitate that? I'm fine either way.
I think that it's less to. So I'm trying to build a workaround for me, not because of anything other than the fact that as of next Wednesday, I'm basically off grid for a while, and they might be working longer than that.
Okay.
And so I would like you to have access to more contact if possible. So it's Dennis or it's Eric. So why don't I do the invite? How about that?
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
send
Yeah,
an invite. I'll send an invite with the reason why to Dennis, to Eric, and to Bernadette. Bernadette is probably going to be the first one that responds back to you, but she's also the learning facilitator and not one of the administrators. So she'll have a deeper context into the use of internship in the LMS they're using now, as well as what they would want.
Okay. Perfect. All right.
I don't think we have time for any of our other questions. We didn't even get to yours. What happened?
Yeah, but this kind of does touch some of my pieces because well, it's all involved with a lot of what we're doing here is really nailing down what a student is going to be required to learn in order to graduate. And so this is just another finger of it that we've got to tease out. So it was definitely topical.
Okay. Yeah, we have another meeting set for Friday at 11, right? I think that's to continue talking about either anything you guys have question related or items that are number 2, 3, and 4 on my list, or because we didn't, so I'll just give you a preface. The whole HR built into the container for all of that information that we built, the nice, beautiful concepts we built the other day, the container for which learning facilitators are taking which learning opportunities, who's mastered them, how much money they got paid. That whole non-sexy container portion needs to be drawn out.
Yeah.
And then digging deeper into the learner LF admin widgets, something around ELs especially. We didn't really mention that as one of the widgets, but something that targets the data for our EL population. And then the biggest one for me, which is getting the graduate profile down into the level 7 and level 8 graduation and promotion requirements over to the high school, as well as backfilling how that will work for high schoolers that need 7th and 8th grade content as mastery still. So those are my biggies that we still need to hash through.
Okay. All right. It's good that we've made the time available because these are definitely important and detailed conversations. We got to get to them. So we have, like you mentioned, it was this time Friday. We might have to find some additional time. And you're going to be gone as of next Wednesday. Is that right? For the most part, you're out of here on the 13th?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Friday shows for an hour. And Friday is for an hour and a half.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to
back end of that, Scott. So we could go 2 hours if you really want to.
Yeah, I am more than willing to make more time available if you can, because the earlier we can get some of these questions answered, the more solid, push off we can have on this entire project.
That sounds good. I already changed it. You're the only one that hasn't said yes, so say yes.
Okay, I'll put it on there. Okay, guys, thanks so much. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, Scott.
Bye. Hi, this is Scott.